Another name to know for BYU when it comes to the transfer portal right now is Sione Laa. Now, a lot of these names we've been talking about, if you're an everydayer, are names of guys who have connections to BYU, whether it's family connections, previous recruiting ties, members of the Church of Jesus Christ, the Latter-day Saints, a whole litany of different things that tie them to BYU. Well, in the case of today with Sione Laa, there are two of those that apply here. A, he was recruited by BYU back in 2023 when he was the number 1 junior college cornerback coming out of California. And number 2, he is a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Now, he decided ultimately to sign with the Oregon Ducks, and during that era, remember 2023 with BYU was, struggling a little bit. In the last 2 seasons, I've really picked up for BYU in terms of their on-field prowess. Much like the Oregon Ducks have been rolling, well, BYU's been rolling right alongside them, but Sione has not been playing a lot as a member of the Oregon Ducks roster. He played just 4 games a season ago, his first year out of junior college, and ended up redshirting for Oregon. And then the hope was maybe he'd take on a bigger role this year, but he's played in a grand total of 6 games, thereby burning a year of eligibility as a junior college guy. That means he's got 1 year left, and he's been fairly pedestrian in terms of his overall numbers. He's got 7 total tackles on the season, 2 pass breakups, and he's been relegated to a reserve role for the Oregon Ducks. So he announced over the weekend, or was announced via reports, that he is going to hit the transfer portal, and he is no longer going to be a part of the Oregon roster. Now, I need to remind everybody, as I do with these, looking at these players, Sione and other players are not officially going to enter the portal till January 2nd. So we're coming up on it, but we're still a little ways out, 2 weeks or so away from that portal window actually opening. And these guys, in theory, being able to talk and decide where they're going to go. But there's obviously back channel communication that can happen. And I think the fact that BYU has, I think, somewhat of a need at cornerback. You lose a guy like Mory Bamba this year. You have guys like Evan Johnson and Trey Alexander who have been very, very awesome. They've been awesome. They've been fantastic players for BYU this season, figuring to come back and reprise their roles next season. You can never do that badly with a 6'4", almost 200-pound cornerback, I think, to have on your roster. And that's what Sione Laa is. He's listed at 6'4", 196 pounds. And I think that his skill set was once upon a time a thing that BYU absolutely coveted, because you can't teach that height and length as a cornerback. But he obviously is looking for more game time, and I think that's what BYU, in theory, could provide him. Now, is he going to want a guaranteed starting position? Maybe that's what he's looking for. And if that's the case, BYU probably wouldn't be able to offer that to him because, as I mentioned, I think Evan Johnson, he's become BYU's premier lockdown corner. And I think Trey Alexander, he's well on his way to becoming just that himself as just a sophomore going into his junior season next year. So if a guy like Sione, if he were to be contacted by Gennaro Guilford or Jay Hill or anybody on BYU's defensive staff, and he says, hey, I want you to guarantee me I'll start at BYU, you just simply can't do that. You tell them, hey, you have every opportunity to come in and earn that playing time and to be a part of the rotation here. I think they can point to the success that they had this year, kind of with a 3-man rotation. You had Mory Bamba, you had Evan Johnson, and you had Trey Alexander. I think between the 3 of them, BYU put a very, very solid product in terms of their cornerback ability on display. That, in theory, should be an advantage to recruiting a guy like Sione and say, hey, understand you'll probably be a rotation guy. You'll probably come in and have to earn your time, but also understand if you are as good as we believe you can be and still could be in a Cougar uniform, get over here, prove it, and we're going to make sure we do the absolute best by you we possibly can do. And if he comes in and he's better than Trey Alexander, Evan Johnson, heck, you can never do worse than having a guy come in and start. You want to have the best players you possibly can have. And maybe Sione's just been overshadowed by other players on Oregon's roster and could come in and provide and be that guy that BYU needs at cornerback. I'm not saying he's going to be a day one starter. I'd be hard pressed to say that for really anybody in the transfer portal, because more often than not, guys who hit the transfer portal, there's really one thing they're looking for. It's more playing time. The secondary thing, more money. That's kind of the 2 things that rule when it comes to the transfer portal. But I think that the ties that he has as a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, A, and B, the fact that guys like Gennaro Guilford and Jay Hill recruited him out of junior college, and he probably still has strong ties to them, that can provide BYU the in they need to get a guy like Sione Laa into this program. And once again, I think that BYU understands that having top-notch quality depth, that's kind of the one thing that still in some ways is holding BYU back in terms of their pursuit of a Big 12 title, making the college football playoff and the like. And getting guys like this into your program, whether they come in and end up being starting caliber players or they come in and just end up being rotation pieces, well, you know what? That depth, it absolutely has to be there. And I think that Jay Hill has made a concerted effort over his past 3 seasons of BYU's defensive coordinator to build that quality depth. And that's why I think Sione Laa offers in spades at minimum. But the hope is, I think, from his end, that he comes to a place he'd be familiar with around guys who are like-minded, a lot of the members of the Church of Jesus Christ, and would obviously come in and provide instant rotation, but also pushing guys like Evan Johnson and Trey Alexander to be the best they possibly can be. I think this would be a really, really nice addition for BYU should it play out. Now, I say that saying that, once again, the transfer portal is not officially open, but agents, parents, coaches, speaking of high school coaches and the like, there's communication that happens. And anybody who wants to say that there's tampering out there, I don't want to hear anything about tampering anymore. It's in this day and age of college football, there's no such thing. There's so much communication happening behind the scenes. And I'm saying this from the BYU lens, but I'm talking across college football. You can guarantee that there are guys on BYU's roster, I would say downright starting caliber players, who have probably had overtures made to them throughout this season, but BYU's not special. There have been guys from every roster seemingly having that chirped at them. And some guys are going to go out there and pursue what they can. I think guys like you saw Josh Hoover and some of these quarterbacks, Rocco Becht, et cetera, from the Big 12, they're hitting the portal. Well, I think number one, they're trying to cash in on money. And number two, find the best possible position they can find themselves in when it comes to their play on the field. So understand that if anybody wants to cry wolf or whine about tampering in this day and age of college football, everybody's fed up with it, but also at the same time, everybody understands that it's happening literally everywhere. Now, that sounds, I think, trite to say that, but it's also the reality of the situation that's going on here. So I do think the guy like Sione Laa be a fantastic addition for BYU, and we'll see how the portal window plays out when it finally opens. But there are names, a lot of names, it feels like, because you talked about the likes of Joshua Dye. We've talked about Leona Lefao. We've talked about Walker Lyons. And in this case, Sione Laa. All of them have ties and connections to BYU that would give them, I think, an opportunity to come in and be impact, if not starting caliber players for BYU. But I think that the nice part is the portal is looking like it could be a place that BYU can step into and find some difference makers, if not outright depth pieces that provide the quality depth you want them to have. We'll see how it all plays out, but a very interesting conversation. And we'll continue to have these as these names continue to pop up, because I find them absolutely intriguing. Because anymore, when it comes to the high school recruiting process, the relationships you forge with these players, you may not get that guy right out of high school, but 1, 2, 3 years down the line, when they don't pan out wherever they're at, or they feel like they want to have a new opportunity at another school, well, guess what? Those relationships you build, so long as you don't burn the bridge, very well could still pay major dividends down the line. And I think BYU stands poised to take advantage of that in this portal window. All right, that is going to do it for today's edition of the show. As always, thank you for your continued support of this podcast. Coming up tomorrow, continue to get you ready for the Pop-Tarts Bowl this weekend. Looking forward to that game. We'll also have a recap of whatever happens for BYU, kind of look back on non-conference play for the BYU basketball program as well. And obviously, you can make sure you follow the show wherever you get your podcasts, on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. We're also active on social media, Locked On Cougars there. And if you need a last-minute holiday gift, or someone keeps asking what you want, because, big days on Thursday, make it easy. Ask for the Everydayer Club. It's ad-free episodes of this show, exclusive Discord server access, and more. Subscriptions can be gifted through Locked On Cougars at supercast.com. And of course, as always, thank you for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day. And until tomorrow, everybody, come back and be an everydayer right here on the Locked On Cougars podcast.